YouTube, welcome back to WTF Rc Cars. So we got some more EXB fun. We've got the Vitavon front and rear diff cases to fit with the oversized bearing, and we've also got, seems I'm going to be stripping all this down, we've got the small bearings for the steering rack, or for the steering assembly, so I might as well put them in at the same time. Right, so let's get this round and get it facing us. So first thing we're going to have to do is take it all apart. So we're going to have to start from top, and basically we want these two covers off, and then we're going to work our way down, see what we can get away with leaving still on from the shock mount assembly, because that's going to have to be taken off the diff casing. So we'll crack on, start removing these first, and then work our way down through it. Right, so first off we've got these 4 screws. Once you back them out a bit, you can then remove that. And then that gets us down to be able to remove this part, because we're going to need that off as well. So I'll get that one off next. That'll remove that bar, or free it off from the front. And then we're going to undo the shockers as well, and take both them off from top. Right, one useful tip I can give you: as you take like this screw out of this part, pop the screw back in by a few threads. You'll know where it's come from and you won't lose them. It comes in really handy with, once you take the shocks off, you've got the little olives from the top and the shock caps. So if you place the shock cap and the olive back on here and then just tighten those up a few threads, you're not going to lose them and you'll know where they come from. So, right, what do we want off next? We want to get down to the suspension bushings, which I believe are under that. So we need that off. And then we also need to get the hinge pins out for the A-arms, which will be that one and that one. If you back it out a little bit, then these 2 pins should come out, letting the arms fall away. So we'll go for that one next. Right, so as you're sliding these pins out, what you might notice is I've got all the spacers at the back, which pushes this arm further forward, gives you slightly sharper steering. But you don't need to take that all the way out. So you just need to back it out enough to free this pin off. And then as you pull this out, you can grab hold of your spacers. So as you're sliding this this back out, you can see when the spacers come loose, and then you want to grab the spacers, collect them, and then once you slide it all the way out, if you put the pin back into the arm and then put your spacers back on, stand more chance of them not going missing, and you know which order they came off. As standard, you'll have 1 or 2 of the spacers this side and 1 or 2 the other side. So it just moves this arm forward and back and changes the angle of your steering, changes the angle that your wheels are. So right, we'll get that one out and then see what comes next. Right, so I've removed the sway bar and the little fittings from the end. There's just an Allen key in each one, but you can just pop them out, you just twist them and out they come. So next we're going to get this out as well. So looking down on it, we've got 2 screws at either side, so we'll get them out, and that should remove the entire shock tower. Right, so that's the shock tower removed, and I've put the 4 screws back in. Now I've got 2 different types of these MIP drivers, and these are the ball joint ends, so you can go at an angle, which does mean getting down to these, you can actually leave the bumper on to get down to them. If you weren't stripping it all down, we'll be taking all the bumper and everything off anyway. But yeah, these things are a godsend, especially on the back end of the Kraton, where the spoiler is when you're removing these screws from the rear of it with the spoiler still in place, you can actually get quite an angle on these and they'll still not strip out. So right, so let's get the bumper assembly apart. Let's get that off, and then we'll move the sway bar and the little grub screws over to the new diff housing. Right, so we've backed those out so they're free, and then it's straight to the underneath. You've got 3 screws there and 1 in either corner at the bottom, and that should remove the entire bumper assembly. So I'll crack on with those. Right, so that's the bumper completely removed. We've got 3 of the big screws at front, 2 little at back, and then it literally, you just grab it and it slides off. I've put those 2 screws back in there just by a few threads so we don't lose them. Then there's 1 screw at either side on that one to get the hinge pins out. I'm not sure if you have to remove this to free the diff housing up, because the replacement one is completely flat on the front, so it looks like there's just them 2 screws go into it. So looking at that, yeah, so them 2 screws will definitely have to come out, but I'm not sure if we'd need to remove the hinge pins or anything yet. So let's get them out, see how much further we can get. Right, so I've took the 2 screws out of there. I've loosened all 4 of the ones that go into the diff housing, and that still don't want to go anywhere. So we've got plenty to undo on the top anyway. So looking at it now, we've got 1, 2, 3 on either side. So I'm going to remove them, and then hopefully this top plate will come off, because I've still got to get down to put the bearings in as well. Right, so that's them 3 out. Should leave us just that 1 in there, and I've not even tried undoing that, and that's really loose. So yeah, that one's barely screwed in, and this car's had extremely little use. So if you've got an EXB, might be worth checking that one. Looks like there were no thread lock or anything on it, and it looks like it goes into aluminium, that. So now, yeah, we should be able to remove all this top mechanism. So I'll get that off and see what we're left with. Right, yeah, for metal into metal, to say Arrma likes putting thread lock in like bucket loads on stuff, could have done with some in there. So next I'm going to undo this linkage and these 2 end ones, and that should let us get the steering rods out of the way, get that out the way, and then we should be able to lift both these up and get them bushings swapped out for bearings. And it should also give us a lot more space to work around the front diff. Right, so when you take that one off, you've got a little locking nut on the bottom, so just pop it back through and then you don't lose anything. And you can just lift it forward, so it looks like I'll probably be easier just taking one of these arms off and just folding the whole thing out of the way, and then we don't end up with too many bits flying about. But I'll just pop these out and get the bearings in. So we're replacing the bronze bushings with bearings. Should make steering a little bit better. Right, let's crack on with that. Right, so there's one of the bearings fitted. I've got the other 2 in there. I've just got 1 more to pop into that side. They're nice and easy to swap. So it's a good time to strip the new diff housing down, and then we're going to start transferring bits over from this one. Right, so the first parts we've transferred over is the sway bar. So you want your 2 little grub screws, and under them screws you don't need to back them all the way out, that just slides down, they both cut out at the top. When you put them into the Vitavon part, don't forget you need thread lock on these, and don't go crazy tight with either those 2, and these should just let enough free play for the sway bar to move, so it's not binding against it. but they don't want to be loose, so it's rattling around everywhere. But right, let's see what else we need to take apart. Right, so I've just removed the 4 remaining screws from bottom of the car into the diff housing. That allows you to lift the diff housing and the whole suspension mechanism out. Because we've took the 2 screws out from the front, that lets you remove both sides separately. You just pull the front forward, the hinge pins come out, and the whole steering assembly comes off, just leaving you with the diff. I've also removed the grub screw from the input shaft there. So now we've got 2 screws to remove from the rear hinge pin mount, so let's get that off. Right, so once you remove that little grub screw, that one, you can then pry this away gently, and that will allow you to there we go, and that just slides back on, and that will allow you to get the input gear and slide it out the old diff housing. And while we've got this, should be able to get a comparison. So that's the standard sized input bearing, and that's the new one. So yeah, the bearing itself does look quite a bit bigger. Right, let's crack on getting the diff stripped down. So once that's off, then it's those 2 and the bottom 2, and we should be able to get into diff and start transferring stuff over. Right, so once you've got the diff out, you need to get out the stock bearing, the big one from inside. The outer bearing, if you lift it with the screwdriver carefully, it will come straight up, and then you can just carefully push on the bearing. They're not in there very tight and it will come out. But while we've got this in pieces, let's show you. That's the new bearing, and that's the actual size of the original. So you can see it's the new bearing's quite a bit bigger than this one. So now we've got the new bearing in the outside of the case, and we need to put the inner bearing and sit it in there. Make sure there's no debris or anything in there, and it should just slide in. Right, so that's the inner and outer bearings put back in. Next thing, we need to pop this one back in, so you can have a good look at that. I mean, this one's brand new, so no point checking it. Basically, you just drop that back through, and then let's get that one back on it. You've just got to work it through there. And then what we're going to do is a quick test fit of the diff to see if we need any shims. So put it in with no shims, then we'll try the diff back in there with no shims and see if there's any play, see if we need to shim it. Right, so quick test fit. No screws holding these down yet, but there is absolutely no play whatsoever. No play side to side, no play up and down. So yeah, again, it looks like the Vitavon machining is absolutely spot on. The one place I may try and get a shim, and don't know if it'll pick up very well on camera, but there's just a little gap between there. That input can move out slightly more without hitting the diff. So I might try and get a shim behind it and just try it. It's just stood. So it's just stood a little bit proud. So I might see if I can get one shim behind just to bring it forward that bit. Let's see what shims we've got. Right, so after a few different attempts. What I've managed to get is I've got the mesh absolutely perfect, and this will be entirely dependent on how the bearing and your input gear has been machined. So it's just going to be trial and error. But I use them 13.9 by 1 and 13.9 by 0.1 and 0.2 of a millimetre shim. And basically you sit them behind that bearing and it just pushes that beveled gear closer to your diff. And what you're looking for, you want it to be as close as possible to push them teeth together to sit them all the way in, but you don't want it fouling your diff housing. So it's going to be hard to show you one hand, but basically the diff can now turn completely freely, and that beveled gear is pushed as close to this mesh as possible. But as for the normal shimming down either side, as soon as the top's clipped on, even without the screws in, there is literally no side-to-side play whatsoever. So the machining on these diff housings is absolutely fantastic, absolutely spot on. So yeah, great improvement from the stock diff housing. But yeah, let's crack on. Right, so that's us diff housing built back up. We've got to put the input drive back on it and the grub screw back in. One thing I've just noticed, they've actually machined a separate little piece in there, so if you have trouble getting your diff in and out, you can just remove that piece and it'll make the diff come out easier, give you a little bit more clearance. On this one I found the diff just dropped in, so but nice little touch. And basically that's what you're looking for, really free movement, nice and easy, and then just pop a bit of grease back in there before you start putting it back together. One thing to make a note of, 4 screws for the bottom of the car to go into the diff come with this, and the 4 silver ones, not sure if they're stainless steel, they're for the hinge pin bracket front and rear. So one thing I'm going to do now is get the old diff assembly and all the screws that we're not using because they come with the new diff assembly. I'm going to get all them together so they don't get lost, and so we don't go looking for places to put all them when we don't need them. Right, so this is all the old assembly with all the screws that we're no longer going to be using. When you build this back up, don't forget you need thread lock. Not massive amounts, but just a little bit of thread lock on all the screws that you're putting in that are going into aluminium. They're the bushings that we took out, and we swapped them with them bearings. Not sure why these pack come with 5. Might be for a different car as well. But yeah, if you keep everything in little bags and keep all the screws in it, you can then chuck it in a drawer with all your other Kraton bits that you're taking off and replacing with Vitavon. So we'll keep all them together, and then you know where they are if you need some spare screws. Right, let's crack on with assembly. So first thing we need to do is get the input drive back on, the grub screw back in. That wants a tiny bit of thread lock on it. And then we want the rear, make sure that is the front rear, yeah, front rear. So we need that carrier back on for the hinge pins. So we'll get that done. Alright, that's got that ready for assembly. And while we've got it there, we'll just put a little bit more grease in there, because I wiped it all off to check for free play and everything. So we'll get that greased up. Right, so this is what you want to be looking for. So we've got the back one screwed on. Put your hinge pins through, get your A-arms on, slide this one back in place. So we've got 2 screws, what was supplied with the new housing, to go in there. I always find it easier to put this back on the car before you get putting them back in. I've never tried it another way, but on a lot of other cars it just seems it gives you a bit of wiggle room to get stuff back together. And also I've just took the opportunity to use bearing oil on these 4 bearings before we slap it all back together. So next thing is getting it on the chassis. So let's crack on with that. Right, so we've got this back in place. What you want to do first, line your drive shaft up, get that in, and then you just want to start one at a time with the screws at bottom, but don't screw them all the way home. So start with, say, that one, then that one, that one, that one, and then just tighten them up a bit at a time, and that'll help it centre itself, and you're not going to be cross threading anything or putting any too much strain on any one bolt. They all need to be thread locked as well. So let's get the steering back in place now. So right, that's the steering back on with the locking nut on the bottom of that one. These should sit level, so you know when these are down flush, because they sat level with the top of these pins. And then you put that one back on for the end of the steering. That's a bit of a strange setup. It's a 2mm hex at the bottom and a 3mm at the top, but you just tighten them up. It needs a tiny bit of thread lock on it as well, because it's metal into metal. Right, let's get the 2 screws back in here. Now that's all back together. Right, so that's the steering all back together, and now we're going to place the top retainer on for the hinge pins for the A-arms. I've got the drive shafts kind of in place, but until the A-arms go on, you've still got plenty of play in them. So let's get this bit fastened down. Right, that's all the top plate and the bar fastened back on. So now we've got to get the A-arms back in position, and the front bumper shock mount, and then the 2 little covers that go up here. So I think first off we'll get the bumper back on. Right, so bumper's on, and just in case you were wondering what the machine's like compared to the stock aluminium parts, that I think is a fantastic match for colour, and I think it's a fantastic fit. So there's these 4 screws to put back in, and again they're going to be thread locked because it's into aluminium, and use the screws that come with the Vitavon diff housing, because they're supplied. You don't need to use the stock ones that come with the car. Right, that's all the screws in, no issues there. Next thing, make sure your drive shafts are in place, and then you want to get these hinge pins back through. Make sure your spacers are where you want them. So we'll crack on with that, get that put back together, and then there's just the shock towers. Right, so that's shocks back on, all screws back in, thread lock, everything back in at the bottom. And yeah, that really wasn't as bad as I thought it were going to be. In conclusion, the only thing I will say I had a slight issue with is getting these 2 screws back in here, and I ended up having to put a slight bit of weight on the front of the car to get the scrolls to line up in the top of the diff housing with these screws, but nothing major. It's gone in, everything's all lined up. The suspension's not binding anywhere, there's no play. It does actually feel like the top arms have got even less play in than what they had before. Still got the standard amount of shims in to shove these forward, because I prefer these more angled up, bit tighter steering. Not racing with it, I just like to be able to steer well when we're jumping around. But yeah, feels really nice and smooth. Everything's fitted well, the sway bar fits and works. Not overly keen on these little things. I think Arrma could Could have made them out of metal. I think they'd have been a bit better. Might have to see if anybody does some replacement ones of them. But yeah, the diff housing, it sits level on the chassis, and I think it's quite a good colour match. I know digital cameras aren't amazing at picking up colours, but I think that's a pretty good match. I've just got the little covers to put back on there. But yeah, in conclusion, this is the, well, if you count the hubs as one part for either side. So I've now got the rear hubs, front hubs, and the front diff housing fitted. I've got the rear diff housing there. So it's getting a bit late on me now, and probably make another video of doing the rear, as it's slightly different to strip down than the front, no steering or anything. Should be a quicker job anyway. But yeah, thanks for watching WTF Rc Cars. If you like and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the notification bell for watching me struggle to fit the rear one. And hopefully I'll see you again next time.